The four of us were sprawled out in Liam's living room, the air heavy with the smell of popcorn and cheap pizza. The TV was blasting some dumb action movie, but nobody was paying much attention. Liam was on the floor with his controller, trash-talking Brandon over a game of racing, while Mia scrolled on her phone and threw sarcastic commentary into the mix. I sat cross-legged on the couch, still sweaty from practice earlier. Track season was coming up, and I'd been pushing myself harder than usual. My legs still ached, but in a good way, the kind of ache that told you were getting faster. Felt normal. Too normal. The lights outside were dim from the heavy clouds, and the street lamp across the road flickered occasionally, but we didn't think much of it. Liam's parents were out for the night, leaving us free to laugh as loud as we wanted and sneak whatever snacks we could find in the kitchen. Around 9:40 p.m., we switched to horror movies, not because any of us were actually scared, but because it was tradition to try. Halfway through some predictable jump scare scene, a loud buzz cut through the speakers. BZZZZT. BZZZZT. At first, we thought it was just the TV. Then all our phones lit up at once. In big red letters, the notification read, "Emergency alert. Hostile mimicry detected. Shelter in place. Avoid all reflective surfaces. Do not engage with any individuals displaying unusual behavior." We all stared at it. Nobody spoke. Then Brandon laughed nervously. "Okay. So, government prank? Halloween early." Except it wasn't Halloween. And outside, the flickering street lamp finally went out. By the time the second movie ended, Liam's snack stash had been destroyed. Crumbs were everywhere. The pizza box was nothing but grease stains, and Brandon was complaining that he was about to starve to death. "Gas station run?" Mia suggested, already grabbing her hoodie. It was almost 11 p.m., and the air outside was damp and warm, with a faint smell of rain in the distance. We cut through the neighborhood, laughing way too loudly for the hour, our sneakers slapping against the sidewalk. I kept my pace a little behind everyone else, my body naturally falling into a runner's rhythm. Old habit. The little convenience store was nearly empty, just some bored guy at the counter scrolling on his phone. We raided the fridge section like kids in a candy store. Energy drinks for Liam and me, root beer for Brandon, and Mia picked some neon-colored soda that looked radioactive. Back outside, Brandon cracked his drink and belched loud enough to echo off the brick wall. Mia threw her bottle cap at him while Liam and I started talking track times, me boasting about shaving another half-second off my 400-meter sprint. It all felt easy. We walked back toward the house under a sky that was turning darker than it should have been, the streetlights buzzing faintly. Somewhere far off, a dog barked, then went silent. But none of us noticed. Not yet. That night was still ours. We cut through the park on the way back, taking the path between the swing sets and the baseball field. The air had that stillness you only notice when you stop talking for a second, like the whole world is holding its breath. A figure was ahead of us on the path, maybe 50 feet away. At first, I thought it was just some guy out for a late walk, but he was standing perfectly still, arms slack at his sides. "Yo," Liam called out, lifting his drink like a toast. Night stroll, no response. We just walked past him, pretending not to notice how his head followed us. Not turned, followed, like it was always angled toward us no matter how far we moved. His face stayed in shadow, but something about the way his body was standing. It was wrong. Too tall in the torso, too short in the legs, like proportions put together from memory but slightly mismatched. Brandon muttered under his breath, "That dude's built like a jigsaw puzzle." We laughed, but it was forced. I felt my legs wanting to speed up, the runner in me itching to just bolt. By the time we reached Liam Street, the guy wasn't behind us anymore. Or maybe he'd never moved at all. Inside, we threw our drinks in the fridge and sprawled back on the couch, trying to pretend nothing was off. But the TV wasn't working now, just static hissing across the screen. Liam smacked the remote. Stupid thing. The static stopped, and in the silence, from somewhere outside, came the sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy. The footsteps stopped. For a second, we all just sat there in the living room, glancing at each other. Liam tried to brush it off with a smirk, but his fingers were tight around the remote. Brandon muttered something about probably a raccoon and went to the kitchen to grab his root beer. That's when every phone in the house buzzed at once. BZZZT. BZZZT. I pulled mine out of my pocket, expecting a weather warning or maybe an Amber Alert. But the words on the screen made my throat go dry. Emergency alert. Hostile mimicry detected. Remain indoors. Lock all doors and windows. Avoid contact with anyone acting strangely. Mia's eyes met mine wide. What the hell does that mean? Before anyone could answer, something scraped against the front door, like fingers dragging slowly across wood. Brandon peeked around the corner from the kitchen. Guys. We turned. He wasn't looking at us. He was staring out the window. The streetlight was back on, flickering, and standing directly under it was the same figure from the park. Only now, there were two of him, identical in every detail, same clothes, same stance, same head tilt. Both of them perfectly still. Both of them staring straight at the house. Then, in perfect unison, they took one step forward. The alert buzzed again. Not just once, 3 sharp jolts like they really needed us to look. Emergency update. Hostile mimics confirmed in your vicinity. Signs include height and build nearly identical to a local resident. Unnatural stillness or stiffness of movement. Faces that appear incomplete. Mimics will approach in pairs. They will not speak. They will not stop. Nobody breathed. Outside, the 2 figures under the flickering streetlight just waited. Then, from farther down the street, we heard screaming. A man bolted from his front yard, barefoot and panicked, sprinting into the road. One of the mimics, identical to him in shape, stepped into his path. Before he could dodge, the thing lunged. It didn't grab him like a person would. It hit him full force, slamming him to the ground. The second mimic moved in instantly, and in the harsh orange light, I saw teeth, too many of them, sink into the man's shoulder. He screamed again, but it was choked and wet. The sound turned my stomach. The mimics tore at him like wild dogs, movements jerky and violent, until his body stopped struggling. We couldn't move, couldn't speak. The only sound was the fizz of Brandon's forgotten soda spilling onto the carpet. Then both mimics stood upright again, slowly, deliberately, and both heads turned toward Liam's house. They started walking. Lock the doors. Now. My voice came out sharper than I expected, and everyone moved at once. Liam sprinted to the front door, slamming the deadbolt, while Mia rushed to the back. Brandon yanked the blinds shut so fast they tore at the edges. I pulled the curtains in the living room just enough to peek outside. The 2 mimics were still coming, slow, steady, no wasted motion. The way their legs moved was wrong. Not robotic, but like they didn't quite understand how joints worked. Farther down the street, more figures were stepping out from driveways and shadows between houses. Pairs. Always pairs. Another alert came through, but this one had a low, urgent tone to it. Emergency update. Critical. Multiple hostile entities detected in residential zone. Do not attempt to flee on foot. Do not approach vehicles if mimics are visible. Reported attacks result in fatal injury within seconds. Seconds. My pulse spiked. From the back of the house, Mia's voice cracked. Guys, you need to see this. We ran to her. Through the back window across the yard, we could see into the neighbor's property. The old man who lived there, Mr. Kerrigan, was being dragged into his garden by 2 identical shapes. They weren't tearing into him like before. They were twisting his arms, bending his body into impossible angles as if trying to reshape him. Something in his shoulder snapped so loud we heard it through the glass. Liam backed away from the window, pale. They're not just killing people. Outside, the streetlights went out again, and in the sudden darkness, footsteps began to surround the house. The house went black. Not dim black. The hum of the fridge stopped. The clock on the microwave died. And the only sound left was the faint hiss of carbonation from someone's half-empty drink. Then came the first knock. It wasn't frantic, like a neighbor begging for help. It was deliberate. 3 slow, heavy knocks on the front door, and then, just as slowly, 3 on the back door. "They're on both sides," Mia whispered. No one dared move. My eyes were straining, but the dark was thick, pressing in. We could barely make out the shapes of each other in the living room. The knocking stopped. That was worse. Somewhere outside, footsteps scraped along the driveway. Then more joined, pairs, shuffling on concrete, circling the house. The sound wasn't right. Their steps didn't sync naturally, like 2 people walking together. They hit the ground at the exact same time every time. An alert tone buzzed from my phone, lighting up my face for just a second. I didn't even want to look, but I had to. Emergency update. Extreme caution. If indoors, remain silent. Mimics locate prey primarily by sound. They may attempt to replicate voices to lure you outside. Do not respond to any voices outside. The second I finished reading, a voice drifted through the front door. It was my mom's voice. "Sweetheart, are you in there? Please open the door. I need you to let me in." Mia grabbed my arm so tight her nails dug in. "It's not her," she whispered. Outside, the same voice called again. Same tone, same exact words. From both the front and the back door. We didn't answer, didn't even breathe too loudly. But the voices didn't stop. They just kept repeating the same words over and over, perfectly identical from front and back, the syllables landing at the exact same time like a broken recording. Brandon pointed toward the hallway. "Bedroom. Barricade." We moved quick but quiet, our socks whispering against the floor. Every step felt too loud, like the air itself had turned into a microphone. Halfway to Liam's room, the first bang rattled the front door. Not a knock, impact. Wood splintered. Then came another. From the back, the voices stopped. We froze. A dragging sound scraped along the siding of the house, moving toward the windows. Something heavy, like nails or claws, brushed the glass. The curtain swayed slightly, though no wind was blowing. In Liam's room, we shoved his dresser against the door and piled whatever we could grab in front of it. His laundry hamper, a chair, even the lamp. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. Through the window, the street was barely visible in the moonlight. But what I saw made my skin crawl. More were coming. Dozens now, moving down the street in perfect pairs. Every single one identical to someone I'd seen around town. A teacher, the guy from the gas station, the man who runs the track field. All silent, all walking straight toward Liam's house. And then, from somewhere deep in the dark outside, we heard a new sound, wet, heavy breathing, right under the window. The breathing outside was too close. Every instinct I had from years of running track was screaming at me. "Move now or you won't get the chance." "They're not all here for us," I whispered. "If we go now, we might slip past them." Nobody argued. We ditched the barricade, Liam grabbing his hoodie, Mia shoving the window open as quietly as she could. The night air hit us. Cold, sharp, smelling faintly of metal. We slipped out into the backyard, crouching low. Across the street, we could see movement. Pairs of mimics tearing into a front porch where a man was swinging a bat wildly. He was screaming, and the sound drew more of them away from our street. "Go," I hissed. We ran. My legs kicked into that familiar sprinting rhythm, but every sound seemed louder in the empty streets. The slap of shoes, the clink of Brandon's soda can still in his pocket, the quick gasps of breath. Half a block away, we cut through a side alley, ducking behind trash bins as 2 mimics passed on the road ahead. Up close, their proportions were even worse, bodies built from the right pieces but all slightly wrong. 2 long arms, necks tilted just off-center. We made it 3 more houses before the first one spotted us. It didn't yell or make any noise, just started running, perfectly in sync with its partner. "They're coming," Mia cried. We bolted down another street, but the sound of more footsteps joined behind us. Not just 2, not 4, at least 8 sets. And up ahead, the faint red glow of another emergency alert sign flickered from a gas station window, along with something moving inside. Something not human. We cut across the empty lot, the gas station's flickering sign bathing the pumps in a dull red glow. My lungs burned, but I didn't dare slow down until we reached the side door. Liam tried the handle. It opened with a soft creak. Inside, the air smelled faintly of gasoline and something sour. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed, one of them strobing in slow, uneven flashes. "Close it," Mia whispered, and Liam eased the door shut. At first glance, the place looked deserted, but it wasn't untouched. A bag of chips lay split open on the floor, its contents scattered like someone had dropped it mid-step. An open bottle of water sat on the counter by the register, still half full, beads of condensation running down the side. Someone had been here recently. "Think they're still around?" Brandon muttered. I didn't answer. My eyes were scanning the aisles, noting more details. An overturned stool near the coffee machine, a trail of muddy footprints leading to the restroom in the back, and a hoodie crumpled in the corner, the sleeves darkened with something I didn't want to confirm was blood. Outside, faintly, we could hear the synchronized footsteps passing the lot. Not stopping. Not yet. Mia was staring at the footprints. "If they made it in here," she said quietly. "Did they make it out?" No one answered. The muddy footprints led straight to the restroom door. It was closed. We stood there for a long moment, just listening. No breathing. No shuffling. Nothing. Brandon swallowed. "If they're alive, we should." I cut him off with a glare. If they were alive, they'd be moving. Or talking. Still, my hand found the handle. It was cold. Too cold. Like the metal had been sitting outside in winter. I eased it open an inch, and the smell hit me. Metallic. Rotting. The light inside was dim, the single bulb swinging slightly. Slumped against the far wall was a man. Or what was left of him. His face was pale, eyes wide open, mouth frozen mid-scream. His chest had been caved in, ribs jutting through torn fabric. The rest of him was wrong. His arms were bent at those same impossible angles we'd seen earlier with Mr. Kerrigan, as if something had been testing how to put him back together, and failed. Liam gagged and turned away. Mia backed into the aisle, clutching her soda like it might somehow protect her. I stepped in closer, and that's when I noticed it. His legs. They weren't his. They were longer, jointed differently, like they'd been replaced. Outside, a noise cut through the night, running. Dozens of synchronized footsteps, closer than before. "They're coming back," Mia hissed. We didn't need another warning. We bolted for the side door. We slipped out the side door, keeping low. The air outside felt heavier, like the night itself had weight. At first, the street looked empty. No pairs under the lamps, no shapes in the yards. But then I saw movement in the corner of my eye. Not ahead, not behind, to the side. Two mimics stepped out from between houses, moving across the street at a perfect diagonal. Another pair was further down, crossing a driveway, their heads snapping in our direction as if they'd heard something. "They're not just walking straight anymore," Liam whispered. "They're searching." We moved fast, cutting behind the gas station toward a narrow alley lined with trash bins. It stank, but it was dark, and that was what we needed. Halfway through, Brandon froze. "Stop!" At the far end of the alley, a pair stood blocking the exit. They weren't moving forward, just standing there, heads tilted, arms hanging unnaturally loose. And in the moonlight, I realized why they looked so wrong. They were identical to us. Two perfect copies, one of me, one of Liam. Same clothes, same hair, same height. They didn't blink. From behind us, synchronized footsteps started echoing into the alley. We were trapped. The copies didn't move until we did. The second I shifted my weight forward, they stepped toward us, perfectly in sync, like mirrors that had been waiting for the first twitch. "Go," I hissed, and we all surged forward at once. I lowered my shoulder like I was breaking through the last stretch of a 400-meter race and slammed into the mimic wearing my face. It was like hitting wet concrete, solid but with something loose beneath the surface. Its skin felt too warm. Liam shoved his own double back into a dumpster with a hollow clang. The mimic's head bent at an angle no human neck could survive, but it didn't even slow down. Behind us, the footsteps were closing in, 4, 6, maybe more pairs entering the alley. Mia bolted through the gap we'd made, Brandon right behind her. I pushed off my double and sprinted after them, the thing's hands swiping at my back and missing by inches. We burst out of the alley into another street, only to see chaos unfolding. Cars sat abandoned in the middle of the road, some with doors hanging open, others with their windshields caved in. And weaving between them, in every direction, were mimics, some chasing, some dragging bodies, others just standing and watching. They're everywhere, Brandon panted. Not just pairs anymore, groups. And at the far end of the street, one of them was holding something long, shiny, and wet. It was a human leg. We hit the pavement hard, keeping low. The cars were our only cover. Rows of metal shells scattered like a barricade through the middle of the street. Stay quiet, I whispered, though my own breathing was too loud in my ears. We slipped between a dented sedan and a pickup with its headlights still faintly glowing. The driver's seat was empty, but the steering wheel was streaked red. A mimic stood on the far side of the truck, facing away. It wasn't moving, just swaying slightly, like it was listening. Its arms were longer than they should have been, fingers dragging along the asphalt. I held up a hand, signaling the others to wait. We crouched there, the night full of distant screams and the sharp crack of something breaking bone. Mia tapped my shoulder and pointed. 3 more mimics were moving between the cars ahead. They weren't in pairs anymore. They were spread out, scanning. We made a dash to the next car, a minivan with both sliding doors open. The interior smelled like blood and something sour. In the front passenger seat, a half-empty bottle of juice was still upright, condensation fresh. Whoever was here had left only minutes ago. Liam's hand brushed mine, his grip tight. They're circling back, he mouthed. And sure enough, the swaying mimic by the truck was turning toward us now. Slowly, its head tilted. Then the footsteps started again. Multiple sets, from both ends of the street. We were about to be boxed in.